What drives a person to torch their neighbor's yard over a petty dispute? And how far can pride burn before it consumes everything? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns and white picket fences define the American dream, a single spark ignited a firestorm that would unravel lives. This is the story of Karen Whitaker, a woman whose obsession with control led to a catastrophe that no one saw coming. Karen was the kind of neighbor who knew every rule in the HOA handbook by heart. Her house on Maple Drive was pristine, her roses trimmed to perfection, her mailbox polished to a gleam. She was the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood's aesthetic, quick to send scathing letters about unapproved paint colors or overgrown hedges. To Karen, the HOA wasn't just a set of guidelines. It was her gospel, and she wielded it like a scepter. But across the street lived Mia Torres, a single mother who moved in 6 months ago with her daughter, Sophia, and a yard that never quite met Karen's standards. Mia's life was a whirlwind of late-night shifts at the hospital and school runs, leaving little time for landscaping. Her lawn was patchy, her flower beds a tangle of weeds, and her mailbox bore a dent from a wayward soccer ball. To Karen, this was an affront, a blight on the neighborhood's perfection. She left notes, then emails, then voicemails, each more pointed than the last. "Your property is lowering our home values," one read. "Do better or the HOA will." Mia, exhausted but defiant, ignored them. She wasn't about to let some busybody dictate her life. The tension simmered through the summer, but it boiled over at the annual HOA meeting. Karen stood at the podium, her voice sharp as she proposed fining residents for egregious violations. Everyone knew she meant Mia. The room buzzed with whispers as Mia, who rarely attended these meetings, stood up. "I'm doing my best," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm raising a kid alone, working double shifts. Maybe instead of fines, you could offer help." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Karen's face reddened. "Rules are rules," she snapped. "If you can't follow them, maybe you don't belong here." The next morning, a citation from the HOA appeared on Mia's door. $500 for unsightly property maintenance. Mia crumpled it in her fist, her eyes burning with frustration. She didn't have $500 to spare. But Karen wasn't done. She began patrolling Mia's yard, taking photos of every weed, every blade of grass out of place. She posted them on the neighborhood's private Facebook group, captioning them, "This is what we're forced to live with." Comments piled up, some cruel, others sympathetic to Mia. The divide in Willow Creek deepened. Enter Daniel Park, the neighborhood's quiet landscaper, who watched the drama unfold from the sidelines. Daniel was a Korean-American veteran, soft-spoken but observant, with a knack for turning neglected yards into works of art. He'd offered to help Mia once, but she'd brushed him off, too proud to accept charity. Daniel, though, saw something in Mia's resilience he admired, a stark contrast to Karen's rigidity. He decided to act. One evening, Daniel knocked on Mia's door with a proposal. "Let me fix your yard," he said. "No charge. Just let me help." Mia hesitated, her pride warring with her exhaustion. But Sophia's hopeful eyes tipped the scale. "Okay," Mia said, "but I'm paying you back somehow." Daniel smiled and got to work. Over the next week, he transformed Mia's yard: new sod, vibrant flowers, a repaired mailbox. The neighborhood buzzed again, this time with awe. Karen, however, was livid. To her, Daniel's act was a betrayal, a challenge to her authority. Late one night, Karen stood in her kitchen, staring across the street at Mia's revitalized yard. Her hands trembled as she gripped a glass of wine. She felt mocked, undermined. The HOA was her domain, and now Daniel and Mia had made her look weak. She didn't plan what happened next. It was a surge of rage, a moment of madness. She grabbed a can of gasoline from her garage, crept across the street, and doused Mia's flower beds. A single match and the yard erupted in flames. The fire spread quickly, licking at the fence, threatening the house. Karen froze, horrified by her own actions, before fleeing back to her home. Sophia's screams woke Mia. She grabbed her daughter and ran outside, calling 911 as the fire roared. Neighbors poured out, some grabbing hoses, others watching in shock. Daniel arrived, his face pale as he saw his work consumed by flames. The fire department contained the blaze, but Mia's yard was a charred ruin, and part of her porch was damaged. The police arrived, and security footage from a neighbor's camera caught Karen's silhouette in the act. By dawn, she was in handcuffs. The arrest was only the beginning. At the trial, Karen's defense unraveled. She claimed it was an accident, a prank gone wrong, but the evidence was damning. The prosecution painted her as a woman obsessed, driven to arson over a petty grudge. Mia took the stand, her voice steady as she described the terror of that night, the loss of the one thing she'd started to take pride in. "I just wanted a home for my daughter," she said, tears falling. "She took that from us." The courtroom twist came from an unexpected source. Daniel. He testified not for Mia but about Karen. He revealed a conversation from months earlier, when Karen had hired him to trim her roses. She'd confessed to him, in a rare moment of vulnerability, that her husband had left her years ago, and the HOA was all she had left to feel in control. "She wasn't always like this," Daniel said softly. "She's broken, but she's not evil." His words hung in the air, complicating the narrative. Karen wasn't just a villain, she was a woman unraveling. Her pain twisted into destruction. The jury deliberated for hours. Karen was found guilty of arson and ordered to pay $200,000 in damages to Mia, covering the repairs and emotional distress. The fine wiped out her savings, forcing her to sell her beloved home. The HOA stripped her of her position, and the neighborhood shunned her. Mia, meanwhile, rebuilt her yard with Daniel's help, this time with Sophia planting flowers alongside him. The community rallied around them, offering support Karen had never thought to give. But the story doesn't end with justice served. Karen moved to a small apartment on the edge of town, her life reduced to a shadow of its former glory. She sat alone one evening, staring at a photo of her old house, her roses, her perfect life. A tear fell as she realized the fire she'd set hadn't just burned Mia's yard, it had consumed her own world. Across town, Mia tucked Sophia into bed, the scent of new flowers drifting through the window. She'd won, but the victory was hollow. The fear of that night lingered, a scar no court ruling could heal. In Willow Creek, the lawns stayed green, the fences white, but the air carried a weight no one could ignore. Karen's fire had exposed the fragility of their perfect suburb, the thin line between order and chaos. And in the quiet, Daniel planted a single rose in Mia's yard, a silent tribute to the resilience of those who rebuild, and a reminder that even broken things can bloom again. ND.